I found the hotel receipt because I was looking for stamps. It was folded in half and jammed in the back of our junk drawer between expired coupons, a takeout menu, and a roll of batteries that didn't fit anything we owned. One night, one guest, King Room downtown, checked in on a Thursday at 6:14 p.m. and checked out Friday morning. The date was from 3 weeks earlier, the same Thursday my boyfriend Nate had told me he was sleeping at the office because the product launch had gone sideways. I actually stared at it long enough to convince myself there had to be a normal explanation. Work reimburses weird things. Maybe a client needed a room. Maybe he paid for his coworker because the company card wasn't working. We'd been together almost 4 years, living together for 1.5, talking in that vague, embarrassing way about rings without ever saying rings. We had a dog together. His mother texted me recipes. I knew his coffee order and the way he went quiet when he was upset. Real life, not fantasy. But still, my stomach dropped so hard I had to sit on the kitchen floor. The part that got me wasn't even the hotel. It was that the last 4 months had been full of tiny things I kept filing under stress. He started taking his phone into the bathroom. He changed his passcode after years of using the same one, then laughed when I noticed and said, "My cybersecurity queen would want me to use best practices." He'd started doing laundry at weird times, like tossing a single dress shirt into the wash at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. Once I found a Sephora bag in the trunk of his car with nothing in it, and he told me it was for his sister's birthday. His sister's birthday was in August. This was November. I didn't accuse him that night. I did something I'm not proud of first. I put the receipt back exactly where I found it. Then I opened our shared laptop and checked the synced calendar linked to his work email. I wasn't trying to hack anything dramatic. It was already there because months ago he'd needed help organizing his schedule, and I'd color-coded his recurring meetings. On the Thursday from the receipt, he had one entry from 5:30 to 7 labeled vendor dinner at a steakhouse downtown. Nothing after that. At 11:20, he came home carrying Thai food like everything was normal. He kissed the top of my head, saw my face, and paused. "What happened?" I asked. "How was the office sleepover?" He laughed automatically, then stopped when I slid the receipt across the counter. There are moments where you can feel someone making a decision in real time. I watched him choose a version of reality. "That's not what it looks like," he said. I hate that sentence. It is always exactly what it looks like or worse. "So explain it." He didn't touch the receipt. "Mike was too drunk to drive. I got him a room." "Then why did you tell me you slept at the office?" His jaw tightened. "Because I ended up staying there too. I was exhausted. I didn't want you to freak out over nothing." That should have sounded ridiculous even to him, but he delivered it in this tired, annoyed tone, like I was already being unreasonable. And because I am, apparently, the kind of woman who wants so badly not to be humiliated that she helps the liar build the lie, I nodded like that made sense. I even said, "Then show me." He blinked. "What?" "Text Mike, right now." He let out this sharp breath through his nose. "Jesus, Lena." "Text him." Instead, he picked up his food and said, "I'm not doing this while you're acting like a cop." That was the first real crack. Not the receipt, not the password. The fact that he'd rather make me feel crazy than do one simple thing. For the next week, we lived in this disgusting limbo where technically nothing had been resolved, but he acted like it had. He was extra nice in that careful, guilty way. Took the dog out without being asked. Picked up my favorite yogurt. Rubbed my shoulders while I answered emails. He kissed me more, but somehow looked at me less. And then Friday happened. He texted around 4:30. "Running late. Team drinks. Don't wait up." I replied, "Okay." Then sat on the couch with the dog and felt every nerve in my body buzzing. I wish I could say I had hard evidence and some rational plan, but mostly I had that horrible animal intuition and the memory of him calling me a cop. At 7:10, I opened Find My on the iPad we used to control the TV. We'd both shared locations years ago for convenience and forgotten about it. His little dot wasn't at the office or a bar. It was at the same hotel from the receipt. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I took a screenshot, put on shoes, and drove there. The whole way, I kept hoping the map would move, that he'd come out and get in an Uber and I'd hate myself for being this person. But the dot stayed there. The hotel lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and expensive candles. There was a couple checking in ahead of me, laughing about parking, and I remember being irrationally furious that the world was still doing normal things. I walked to the desk and said, "I'm trying to surprise my husband." He wasn't my husband, but apparently I lie too when cornered. "Can you tell me if Nate Walker is checked in?" The woman at the desk gave me the bland professional smile people use when they know exactly what kind of scene is forming. I'm sorry, I can't give out guest information. I nodded like I understood, then sat in one of the lobby chairs facing the elevators. Maybe that part was unhinged. Maybe all of it was. But I had reached the point where dignity felt theoretical. I waited 26 minutes. He came down with a woman in a camel coat, not some glossy stereotype. Not younger in a way that made me feel ancient, not taller, not movie star gorgeous. She looked normal. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair clipped back, work tote over her shoulder, the kind of face you'd trust in a meeting. They weren't touching at first. Then right before they hit the lobby, he put his hand low on her back, absent-minded and intimate, and she leaned into him like she'd done it before. I stood up so fast the chair legs scraped. Nate saw me first. He stopped so abruptly she almost walked past him. I will never forget his face. Not guilt, not fear, irritation, like I had arrived early to ruin a surprise party. "What are you doing here?" he said. The woman looked between us. "Nate?" I said. "That's actually a great question. What are you doing here?" People always imagine confrontations as loud, but mine came out weirdly calm. My voice was shaking, but it wasn't loud. I looked at her and asked, "Did he tell you he lives with his girlfriend?" Her entire body stiffened. "His what?" Nate stepped in. "Lena, stop!" "Did he tell you about the dog, the joint lease, my mom helping him pick your Christmas gift because he said he was too busy?" The woman's face went blank in that protective way people's faces do right before humiliation lands. She turned to him. "You said you broke up in September." And there it was, clean and flat and undeniable. I laughed, which was probably the worst sound I've ever made. "September? That's interesting. Because in October we went to my cousin's wedding and he cried during the vows." He snapped then, low and vicious. "Can you not do this here?" I actually said, "Here feels appropriate." The woman took a step back from him like he'd become physically hot. "Oh my God." He reached for her arm and she jerked away. Then he turned to me, and this is the part I can't stop replaying because even then he was still managing optics. This is complicated. Nothing makes you crazier than hearing your own life reduced to that. I asked her name. She said, "Maya," barely above a whisper. I said, "I'm not mad at you." That was true for maybe 30 seconds, then she said, "I didn't know." And I believed her, and somehow that made it worse. Because if she had known, then he was just cruel. But if she didn't, then he had built two separate realities and walked between them without flinching. I left before I could cry. Not out of strength. I just suddenly couldn't stand being watched. He came home 2 hours later to find his clothes in trash bags by the door. I'd packed badly on purpose. Dress shirts crumpled in with socks. His expensive headphones shoved between jeans. Petty, yes. Deserved, also, yes. He kept saying my name, like I was overreacting to a misunderstanding. Then he told me he hadn't slept with her that many times, which is such a specific, insane thing to say that I just started laughing again. He said he'd been unhappy for months. He said I was distant. He said every conversation with me had become about logistics, bills, whose turn it was to buy dog food. He said with Maya he felt seen. I told him he could have tried speaking. He said, "You would have made it a whole thing." Maybe he was right. I do make things into whole things. I ask questions. I press when something feels off. I get moody and withdrawn when I'm hurt instead of being warm and easy. I read old texts when I'm anxious. I looked at his location. I sat in a hotel lobby like a lunatic. I'm not presenting myself as some perfect, serene victim. But he was cheating on me while splitting rent and asking what color couch we should buy next spring. The part I didn't expect is that 2 days later, Maya messaged me on Instagram. Just, "I'm sorry, I really didn't know. Can we talk?" I haven't answered, because now I know one more thing I wish I didn't. She's married. I found that out not through stalking, not exactly, but because her profile picture is her and a man and 2 little girls in matching raincoats on a beach. Her account is private, but the bio says, "Mom ×2, nonprofit law, trying my best." So now I'm sitting here with my boyfriend's betrayal in one hand and this stranger woman's entire life in the other, and I can't tell if answering her makes me compassionate or vindictive. I can't tell if not answering protects 2 kids from chaos for one more weekend or just gives both of those liars more time to get their stories straight. Nate is staying with his brother and texting me things like, "Please don't blow up multiple lives because you're angry," which, to be clear, is a very creative way to phrase consequences. I haven't told Maya's husband. I haven't responded to Maya. I also haven't blocked Nate, which probably says something bad about me. Part of me wants every person involved to have the exact same level of information I was denied. Part of me wants to disappear, break the lease, and let their marriage be their problem. Instead, I've done the most pathetic possible thing. I reread her message at least 6 times a day and imagine all the versions of this that end with me being the cruel one.